Hi guys, it is me, Miss MatchaBlossom. Give me 1 second, I gotta close the door. Hi guys, it is me, Miss MatchaBlossom. And today we are actually going to be talking about something you guys have. One person actually asked me a question about. I've been dying to do this for a very long time. I finally brought up my historical notes, brought up some notes I've been writing, and decided to share it with you guys so it's better understanding for everybody to know. If you're wondering who I am, hello. My name is Miss MatchaBlossom. I am a Hanfu enthusiast, and I am not a historian, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a professional. I'm just an enthusiast that loves to research ancient China and its histories, along with how it has to do with its daily wear and daily garments. Ancient China with Hanfu. Why am I yawning? So I might be reading from my book today. It's a little different color because I have a different book. I wrote all my notes down in here, so just to let you guys know, I did research it. So if you see me look down for a little bit, I'm looking at my notes, okay? So let's move along to the first step. Now, I know a lot of people were like, what is really the difference between Wuxia or XIANXIA versus historical garment? Can get a little bit tricky if you are not paying attention or you haven't researched. Let's say you're watching a C-drama or even going through a museum and you don't understand why they don't look the same like you did on TV. Those historical costume dramas, which they do call them costume dramas instead of historical dramas. I can see why people call it historical because it looks historical, but it's more like a costume drama, and I'll tell you why in a second. Because historical means it comes from the historical accuracy of something. But if you're looking at it from another perspective, actually another angle because you researched it, it's actually historical fantasy. And that's the difference majorly between them, but let me break down why, because I know that's why you guys are sticking around. If you guys like this kind of video and want more historical informed videos, hit a like down below. If you subscribe and hit the bell notification, YouTube will more than likely let you know when I have a new video. The first thing I wrote, because I know people are going to be like,
okay, so what is the difference? They look historical, but like it's like different.
Yeah, because it is different, bro. It is the first thing I noticed, because I used to be a fashion major, was the clothing. It's not just because, oh, it's by dynasty, oh, it's inspired by this dynasty, oh, it's inspired by this time period, this person in this time period. No, that's not what we're talking about. Or costume drama, or any kind of like costume movie, whether it was coming out from China or even America for that reason, or any other country, that kind of costume drama aesthetic or cinematically, depending on the subcategory, go into Wuxia or the XIANXIA. If you're wondering, I'm gonna link down some other people who on YouTube have talked about the differences between Wuxia and XIANXIA, but I'll give you a little synopsis here so you have to understand. I'm sorry if I'm butchering these words, by the way, disclaimer. I'm not perfect, I'm still learning Mandarin, please don't hate me. Wuxia is actually more of the martial arts fantasy of the sects, like the different martial arts sects and like categories and groups that really kind of take reins of the world. So like nobility doesn't really have that much control. It's more of like universal ability, like you know, taking charge and not letting people take control. Don't let the man win, you know, fight against the man, you know, we are the people kind of vibes, if not also being the truest hero and having, you know, harmony between all men in that kind of sense, and fighting against evil that tries to take over, right? But the XIANXIA is more religious based, if not also supernatural or power based. It goes into a lot of different categories like Taoism, so on and so forth, and it just keeps going. That's more, I would like to say, in my personal opinion from noticing this, besides it being religious, like power based or like more of the like supernatural powers, or I've noticed like, for example, the fairy and the devil, that would kind of fall into that kind of XIANXIA kind of fantasy romance kind of category. So that might be like into that kind of helps you break down a little bit. Once again, I will post videos down below of who you need to go to that breaks it down more clear and concise. Once again, go down below into the description. You will find the information there. Don't be lazy. Thank you. Let's go on. That just kind of helps you understand what I'm going to say further. So the next thing you want to kind of understand is historical Hanfu, right? I will say this because there are going to be people who are trolls on the internet or even in this comment section that might be like,
no, historical Hanfu is still Hanfu.
Technically, popping in for an author's note, if not an editor's note. This is a disclaimer because I always get people who say the most outrageous comment. So for instance, I'm not explaining differences between like XIANXIA, Wuxia, and XUANHUAN. I might have butchered that, I'm sorry. I'm just not great at remembering the words, but I'll put the names. The purpose of this video is purely to differentiate the differences between historical fantasy and historical accuracy. Hanfu, and how to be able to describe it and see the differences, not to spread hate or between any of them or between them. This is just to establish the differences so that you have an understanding and what type of Hanfu you are trying to wear, trying to establish, trying to rep. So a lot of people might reference Hanfu as costumes to a certain extent. I can understand why they do that, even though some people might not think that's historically appropriate. If you look up the definition costume, it tells you it is a period piece that is according to what was used to be known or to be worn. But a lot of people, out of respect for the Hanfu culture or any kind of like period piece, especially Hanfu, it is most likely accepted or perceived or approached to use historical replica. I will try my best in this video to put in the word historical replica, because sometimes even though people say costume, not everyone is meaning it in a negative like kind of tone. They don't mean it in a negative aspect. It just comes across that way because it's been so overused in wrong terms that costume has become a derogatory word for a lot of historical replicas or historical accuracy replicas. I will just put that in here, and I just want to say that now because I know when I said costumes, some people are going to be trolling on me. I just want to say that now. Also, I will tag down below some YouTubers that have explained it beautifully, not just the differences between the different historical fantasies, but also the differences in similar videos that I am doing right now. I will link them down below because everybody's voice deserves to be heard. I will let you guys get back to the video. Thanks so much. Gotta get back to editing, so take it away, regular matcha. So if I do say something similar along those lines, saying it's a costume, it's not because I'm disrespecting Hanfu. I'm sorry if this has a lot of edits in it. It's just, I have to put that out there so people can understand the next content. Historical Hanfu is more based off of what you've seen in history, like museums, or either pictures, sculptures, portraits, paintings, things found in tombs such as garments, apparel, jewelry, stuff that was worn by servants, or even like, for instance, more of the historical elements that were inspired were like terracotta warrior armor, like hairstyles or their face shape. How it was based off of real people, but the hairstyles are all different on the different terracotta warriors. And how you can kind of tell in costume dramas that are similar to like, you know, Chinese culture, not all of them lean into the Wuxia. Some of them do try to keep it as historical as possible, but just know that that's not really always the case. It just depends on what you're watching, what is the research based off of, and also what kind of elements of fantasy are they playing with, what ones are the fashion designers playing with as well. That's just something that you should take into context when you watch a show. And if you research the type of Hanfu from each dynasty and what they're getting influenced by, you can more than likely know if it's just a Wuxia, XIANXIA, if it's actually like influence from a historical standpoint. So with Wuxia and XIANXIA versus like historical accuracy of like the Hanfu that you would see more worn, that's based off of like the murals, portraits, etc., etc., etc. The difference is one is mostly historical fantasy and the other one's historical accuracy, as close as it can get. Now examples, the historical fantasy are Mulan, for example, 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms. I would say it's like heavily influenced by historical, but it's not the same. Another version would be The Long Ballad is a great example. Wuxia for the Long Ballad, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like there's various ones. And now I did notice another thing that's different from more historical or historical influence Hanfu versus Wuxia or XIANXIA is the hairstyles. A lot of people are going to be confused by that because you have studied Hanfu or any ancient Chinese hairstyle. It's a little bit different from dynasty to dynasty because of who ruled, but also who was influenced. So here's some differences that can help you understand when you study later on about like historical hairstyles, or also the differences in the Wuxia, XIANXIA kind of spec. Now, if you notice, Wuxia and XIANXIA have different hairstyles. I've seen them mostly based off of like modern influences or more of like a down-to-earth like 21st century based hairstyles. So for example, the men have more of like a half up, half down hairdo, if not all the way down. Their hairstyles more to make them mostly attractive or just very good looking and handsome, versus the females, which are more regular based or kind of more everyday based, if not influenced by some type of historical accuracy. I know some people are like,
well, what about the ones that wear like the buns on their head?
That's a great example. Now, the men's headpiece, that's actually that it's like a shield-like ornament. That little like holder piece is called a guan, G-U-A-N, and it's more for like men's hairstyle. And the reason why it's going to be different for wuxia and like the fantasy kind of costume dramas versus the more historical accuracy or historically worn Hanfu is because of the coming of age ceremonies. Now some people are probably like, they had what now? If you think about it, it's really no different from nowadays. How you see children wear very different hairstyles than the adults.
But sometimes that can kind of lead way into like one sense of style.
Back then, it meant a lot of different things and it was a different kind of custom because it helped them also understand who was of age and who wasn't. Now, as I mentioned, you know, men had their hairstyles more half up, half hair down, you know, fantasy inspired. That's more modernly influenced. But as a historical standpoint, it was totally different. It had historical influences. Like even nowadays, it has historical influences for Hanfu hairstyle. You know, Hanfu enthusiasts or Hanfu wearers or daily lifestylers have their hair, like they'll inspire it from Hanfu. Now they did have their hair pieces. They also had a piece that was in the middle that was like the older piece. It looks like a chopstick, but it's just like that middle long piece, which is called a zan, they would put in their head to kind of hold the bun in place. But there is a whole kind of like ceremony for men. And they were like of age to like, they would have it to where when they were a kid, like when they were very small, they could have any kind of short haircut, whatnot. And then eventually as they get a little older, like maybe like 4 or 5, you know, they would have it in different buns or ponytails. They can have any kind of hairstyle they wanted to until they became the age of 20. That's when things started changing their hairstyle for the different. It wouldn't be half up, half down at that point. It would be all in one area because it would be in a bun, and whether that's in the middle of your head or in the back of your head behind it, it would have to be in some kind of bun. Now that ceremony is called the hair ceremony or the Guanli kind of ceremony. Now it's where the young men would receive a hat from their parents and essentially they would be expected to tie their hair in a bun with a cover over it in some sort of headwear as well that would kind of help put their hair together, just like kind of a head covering in public as well. Now some examples of that, because like it was different depending on class or status. Some commoners or people of lower class would have like kind of like a bun, but they would have like a covering, like a scarf or some kind of head covering cover over that bun. Now if you had the expenditures or the ability, kind of like financial stability, kind of spend more on different headdresses, some people would have it like with different hat hairstyles, and they would be with jade and gold or various other jewels and gems that would be designed. Headdresses such as like a guanjin, which is kind of like a cloth headband, that cloth hat that you just put on. It's like one of those that look like it goes back like this. The cloth bun that was worn by commoners or by people called a xiao baopa, X-I-A-O-B-A-O-P-A. Another version of like a headdress would be a futo, which is kind of like what you see a lot of people wear in C-dramas, but also in historical accuracy as well. Another version, like one worn by like the emperor Wan Li of Ming, he had one that's like embedded and like woven with gold pieces, and then the dragons were like put on in a certain applique. Now another headdress that you kind of would see some people wear, different people of class wear, Zhao Guan or Guan, Zhao Guan. It's mostly as a little hat. It kind of encases your bun entirely in it. It's called a little hat for a reason. It looks like a dinky hat with little strings inside of it. Once again, I'll put some more links down below. Like I mentioned, and the Wuxia, kind of XIANXIA, they had their hair half up, half down. It was common, more of the C-dramas that are costumes, they don't make as much of a big deal about it. Now, in a historical standpoint, it meant something else. It really, really did. Historical fantasy don't care about their hair half up, half down. It's more common, unless you're a commoner, I've noticed, which is weird. But in real life historical, you can't do that. If your hair was down or in a ponytail, it is symbolized something else, because you got to remember the coming of age even applied to females. So for females, you would have your hair in an up position, and I know there's probably more information about that because females had their hair very, very different from men. Like their coming of hair ceremony is a little bit different from men's, where they had to have it entirely up. Females would have it up to a certain extent depending on if they were married or not. I'll put some more information down below. Please research it. If not, if it's not already over here, I'll put an editor note. It wasn't common to have your hair down or like out, like in a ponytail. The reason why is because it had to mean something. For example, when I was watching Ru Yi's Love at the Royal Palace, when she was just tired of everything, she like had her hair down and then she just cut it because her hair, back then it was influenced by Confucius's teachings talking about, you know, your hair, nails, and skin are all blessings that you receive from your parent. If you cut it, it's a sign of mourning or like funeral. So like if you cut your hair in front of your spouse saying, I'm tired of you, you cutting ties. That means their relationship is dead. That kind of sign of disrespect back then. Another example would be like whenever you had your hair out or a ponytail out, it would symbolize something is happening, like what metaphor or symbolism is it standing for. They're about to get executed. Not only they wear their Zhongyi outfit, but they're wearing their hair down because they're so strange. It's like, it's kind of symbolizes like, dang, they're really in trouble. Their hair is a mess and it's down. It's not even properly put up. They're in their pajamas, kind of underwear. If you want to know what that means, go look at that video. They're all kind of messed up right now. They're in trouble. To kind of like go over it. And also, it was also optional to have facial hair in like C-dramas or like costume dramas that have fantasy, I've noticed. It depends on the characters who are older to kind of like, it either symbolizes an older person in a Wuxia or JIANG, or it symbolizes like as a main character if they grow facial hair that time has passed. But in historical standpoints, it didn't matter what age you are, you would grow your hair all the way out until death, including your facial hair, and that's more of a historical standard. You can talk about so many things that are different from Wuxia and JIANG compared to historical. Not just the clothing and the hair, also like the way that there's like a, what was it? There was this drama that's based off of Wuxia. Oh, it's similar to the Tang Dynasty, but you could tell her boobies are like about to burst out. You could see mine, I have it covered all the way up. Here's another aspect that's like kind of difference between historical and costume. My hairstyle is very inspired. It's how they're coming of age, like not just ceremony of like coming of age, like how their hairstyles would change over time, because that's also a thing to consider as well. Yeah, it did depend on your growth of life and also where you came from, also your status, and then also what time period you're in. So hopefully that, guys, it helped you out a bit more. I know there's a ton more to go into, like why do the outfits have layers in Wuxia and JIANG versus this, and why does it look like this instead of that? I remember some people have taken, especially the fashion designers of these costume dramas, it depends on where they took the liberties and inspirations from, or which dynasty, which person, how they took their inspirations, like what designs that they wanted the person to wear to kind of symbolize that character's like traits and what they're gonna do later on, the foreshadowing. That takes a lot into context as well. And even if they're basing it off of a historical point in history and they make it into a costume drama or a movie, that is something to think about too. Costume designers or fashion designers do take that in consideration when they're on set, and they also have like these talks and meetings to have stuff like that. Please pay attention to that as well. Now I will say, I don't want people to go out and make fun of people like, oh,
you're not wearing historically accurate this, you're wearing this, you're wearing a fantasy, you're wearing a fake fraud of Hanfu.
I will stop you right there, okay? Being accurate as you can be historically, like for example, I'm wearing a Tang Dynasty. This is an inspired hairstyle. Qishan Ruchen, right? I'm wearing it correctly, not appropriating it where I'm taking out of context of where it doesn't need to be at and making it look like something it's not. Now, if you have a fairy like Hanfu, I would say, in my personal opinion and belief and also research, please keep it as close as you can in history, but still have fun with it. The whole point of being a Hanfu enthusiast or lifestylist is to enjoy wearing Hanfu. It is also, don't get me wrong, it's still important to understand the historical background of Hanfu and also wearing it correctly and appropriately. That is very important. But to dictate what someone is wearing is right or wrong, it's not really up to you, it's up to what is accepted for that Hanfu. Please wear Hanfu accurately, and I mean accurately. Like, this may not be historically accurate, but it is Hanfu accuracy according to the structure, the way the pieces are structured out, and how the hairstyle and the hair pieces are. I feel better getting that off my chest because I have had that not just happen to me, but other people I know where they'll only accept certain people, certain races, certain ideas of who should be wearing Hanfu and how they wear Hanfu. So let's not beat each other up on, you can't wear historical. It's either you wear historical or not. Let's not do that. As much as I love watching C-dramas, which I really do, it helps me understand more about the historical more than you think. So sometimes these two do complement each other out. So let's not try to like fight it and say one is better than the other when they're both trying to help each other out, be known and be present. Other than that, I think that's it for the video today. If you have any thoughts about it, like how did you find Wuxia and XIANXIA versus historical? What made you get into Hanfu? And what are some of your favorite C-dramas that you like the outfits from that are similar to historical or that are not similar to historical that got you into Hanfu? Let me know down below. I'd really love to see it and hear about it. And I am going to be working on more videos. It just takes me a while to edit these so I can make it more clear and concise for a lot of people to see and to hear. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Don't forget to spread peace, love, and happiness. And it's only up to you to make every day beautiful. See you ladies and gents later. Bye guys. Bye. Whoosh, woo.